This is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4? Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, DRG. Let's go. What do you think for tonight?
You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about the
Let's go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not. No,
recently he's putting up games like
above our head for the players.
literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think right now
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do. And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
Whew. This one is a breath of fresh air. I'm sorry, I got you.
Oh man, we're gonna face him in the first round, and this is gonna be a curse.
I had to. I'm sorry. What is going on?
You gotta
Everybody?
keep it rolling the whole show.
Franco's idea.
The whole show.
You know what? They might not be able to beat the Boston Celtics, but they got a catchy theme song, so I'll give them that. But what is going on, everybody? Welcome back.
Technically, they did a month ago.
To the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I am your host, Robbie Tan. Joined with me are all my great co-hosts, Nick Franco, Seamus Arlingo, and Justin Lowe. Guys, the Celtics, man, oh man, did they need this win tonight, and they delivered a great, successful, almost wire-to-wire win against the Orlando Magic, won at 21-94. Obviously, many highlights on this game, guys. The Celtics steering away from that three-point shot in that first quarter kind of highlighted it. A lot to talk about. Tatum had a dominant performance. We had Cooper Flagg and AJ in company and that Duke team in attendance. The Celtics showed out, guys. But before we kind of dive into everything that we got for us tonight, what's your initial thoughts, reactions, takeaways on this, again, much-needed win?
No, all right. Well, no, I'll take it.
You've been gone for a week.
Go
You might
ahead,
have
Franco.
I'll take it.
Missing you.
I mean,
Right.
I got 3 C's for the C's: consistency, control, and confidence. That was tonight's game. It was very in their control. They were playing their brand of basketball. They were taking full advantage of tonight's matchup. We were able to match up with Paulo for the first time since his injury, and we were able to just maintain an offensive standpoint that you could see every single player on the court was taking their shots. Derek White had a great performance tonight, and we also were able to see the team start off the first quarter 5 for 5 from three-pointer, hitting their shot from the free throw line, just major things. And they never really allowed the Orlando Magic to really put in a effort where we would think that the Celtics were going to lose the momentum. It was just a consistent uprise. And it was one of the things we haven't really seen this season is at the halftime, we see the score going up, which was a major factor throughout the NBA final run last year. You would see the Celtics have a 10 or 20 point lead and only grow it from half. And this was the first time we saw that this season really from the team. And it was a great win, but I'm still, I sound very pompous saying this, but I don't care about a win with this stretch that the Celtics have going on, even though it's great to have one. But we're really looking for wins going forward from the Celtics, and let's see if they can string this together.
Yeah, we need to see some consistent wins build up. We've seen a win and then a loss and then a win and then a loss. And guess what? We played tomorrow and we won tonight. So let's not continue the pattern that we've been going down the past month or so. But we are Celtics post-game live tonight, and we're talking about a game in which the Boston Celtics essentially dominated in. They had their hands all over this one from the start. Maybe not a wire-to-wire win for the Celtics, a few early leads for the Orlando Magic, but overall a really dominating game for the Celtics. And this is exactly the type of game I needed to see from the starting lineup. Yes, you did get some key bench contributions throughout the ball game. Sam Hauser was certainly spectacular tonight. Peyton Pritchard playmaking tonight, didn't really shoot the ball that much, but the bench looked solid. But the starting lineup looked really, really good. And remember, guys, I've been harping on these guys for the past month or so, really calling them out. They needed to show up, and they did tonight against Orlando Magic. This is a really tough Orlando Magic team. Yes, only 3 wins over 500, but they are a very, very, very sharp team that are certainly on the come up here in the Eastern Conference. This is also a team who was significantly shorthanded about a month ago when you faced them down south, and you had a 15-point lead. You lost it. Orlando punched you in the mouth in the second half, and they took the game. So really good response here from the Celtics tonight, especially from that Toronto loss. They need to come out and do this again tomorrow night.
Well, tonight's game from the Boston Celtics, first of all, shout out Derek White, who had more points in the first quarter tonight than he did the entire game in Toronto the other night. So shout out to Derek White and really the rest of the starters for that one. You could really tell that the Celtics, they were bringing out a much different vibe, a much different energy in this game tonight, because really the two things that stood out for me in this game, number one, the extra passes the Celtics were willing to make on the night. We did not see three chucking at all in this game, and it was very uncharacteristic to see the amount of threes that the Celtics took throughout the game as the game continued rolling on, because we were really looking at the sheet going, whoa, we're taking a lot more twos than threes in this game, and that's really not what's been the Celtics' philosophy for the entirety of the season. And then moving on to the defensive end of the floor, I think the rotations tonight were a lot crisper than they have been in recent stretches for the Boston Celtics, or recent games rather, in this recent stretch. Because tonight, I still don't believe the entirety of the intensity of what this team can bring defensively is there from what we saw last season. But at the same time, I thought the attention to rotations tonight and where guys were supposed to be positioned on the floor, that was really important for the Boston Celtics. And you could tell that there was a different energy within this ball club, and they definitely put an emphasis on a couple of things that they did not do well in Toronto that they wanted to come out tonight and do well. And there's no doubt that there was an internal matter with the team. Now, I'm not saying the team was, feuding or anything like that, but you could tell that, hey, guys were in the locker room. They were talking about everything bad that went down in Toronto, everything bad that went down against Sacramento. And you could tell these guys were definitely motivated to come out and shut some of those narratives down. Now, I will say, during this next stretch here, where the Celtics face Atlanta tomorrow night, which we know in these back-to-back situations, Friday, Saturday, oh, good Friday win. But if we come out and lose Saturday, it kind of negates that Friday win just a little bit. So the Celtics, with that Atlanta game on the horizon tomorrow night, on Saturday night, and of course the West Coast road trip coming up, there's a lot of chance for the Celtics to really staple this win as a potential turning point. Now, I'm not going that far and saying it is right now, because we are still 8-7 in our last 15 games.
Right.
We're still 10-8 in our last 18 games. So the Celtics are still going to have to do much, much more in order to prove to us that, hey, they're going to start to turn the corner here. They're going to start to play this brand of basketball every single night, because we're not seeing this brand of basketball every single night. But this was a good building block, a good stepping stone if you want to go there, if you're the Boston Celtics. And we really just need to see more of it. And I believe that as the season progresses, we will see more of it, because this last stretch was the most embarrassing stretch of Celtics basketball we've seen in 2 seasons, really, and really out of this iteration of the Boston Celtics, with Porzingis and Holiday on the roster. And I really think that the adversity for the team could be good in the long run, knowing, hey, the NBA season, whether it's the playoffs, regular season, it's not always going to be easy. You're going to be punched in the mouth a lot more than the Celtics were punched last year. And I think in the long run, potentially this little stretch here could be important for the Celtics to actually hone in and put an emphasis on doing all the little things that really won them the championship in the first place, and to really get back to that for this season on their second championship run, their back-to-back championship run. So tonight, certainly the way you want to see the Boston Celtics play. And this is not just a win is a win. This was a dominating win by the Boston Celtics in every facet of the game. And really, this is how we want to see them play moving forward. And I wondered if we're going to see the change in the Celtics moving forward, because there is a lot of opportunity for it. And tonight was the first occasion in which they can rebound. They could have rebounded and proved themselves a little bit more than what we saw in Toronto. And really, this game, this team is kind of hard to talk about right now because of the 500 record over the past month. But anytime you see a win like this, we're kind of hoping, all right, okay, now let's go on a little streak here. Let's do this a little bit more moving forward. And I think tonight's game just had a much different vibe to it than the rest of the games we've seen as of late. And that's really the silver lining here for the Boston Celtics, with a lot of opportunity in front of themselves to prove that tonight's game was not just a fluke, not just one win in a 500 record, but really the first stepping stone, or part of the first stepping stone from where they can really go this season, where we thought they could go at the beginning of the season, which is winning back-to-back titles.
They were engaged. They were active, right? Like that is, it was clear as day in the first 5 minutes of this game that they were probably going to hold on to it and win it. You could have it was just, you could tell. There was a question. I kind of questioned how they were going to come out of the half. Cause again, against Oklahoma City, I hate to say it again, but right. We saw them have a great first half. That second half, it was a rapid decline, but you could tell their intentions were there tonight. And guys, Orlando, this is the second best defensive team in the NBA. And the Celtics got exactly what they wanted, when they wanted it, and how they wanted it. And there was nothing Orlando was able to do. This is the Celtics team we know. This is the Celtics team we love. This is the Celtics team, and this is the brand of basketball that this team has to play. And I want to mark those 3-point attempts, guys. 15 attempts in that first quarter. They really started to shoot more once they kind of first half, 15 in the first half. They started to shoot more. They took 22 in the second half, but that's okay, right? 37, 17 to 30. The quality of shots they were getting, guys, was there. They were making what did I say last postgame show? This team needs to make an intention. They were passing up some open threes in that first half to get into the paint. And you're sitting there and thinking, like, beautiful. This is what you want to see. They're establishing interior presence. They're building from out. They're passing up some okay shots to get they're passing up some decent shots to get much better high quality shots. So it was a great starting point, I think, for the Celtics. It's a great game that they can go back and look at and learn from. Okay, what worked tonight when we played Orlando? How were we able to beat them? And again, it was probably my favorite win in the past 2 months, without a doubt. Guys, I just, let's take a look at this lead tracker, please, because so this was perfection. This is the definition of a perfect, near perfect lead tracker. Obviously, that first couple minutes, it wasn't perfect, but this is almost exactly what you want to see. You cannot complain when you see this type of lead tracker, guys. That is called exponential growth, friends. It keeps getting bigger. The lead keeps growing. Guys, tonight, the Celtics, they led by as many as 27 points. Orlando's biggest lead of the night, guys, was 2. Celtics obviously was dominating this Orlando Magic team. It shows in the lead tracker, guys. To you, what was the difference maker tonight for Boston?
I mean, offensively, first of all, and Rob, you're going to love this point because you are always on this. The shot distribution tonight was phenomenal. Besides Tatum, who took 21 shots, rightfully so. We'll get to him in just a little bit. As you can see, he's our player spotlight tonight. 12 shots for Brown, 10 for Porzingis, 12 for White, 8 for Holiday. Then you go down to the bench. The list goes on. 3 for Pritchard, 4 for Horford, 5 for Hauser, 3 for Keita. So it was very, very even in the shot distribution department tonight, which is great to see. Everybody's getting their looks, and they were converting their looks as well. So that's one thing. And another thing I'd like to point out is that second half for Boston, specifically defensively, was phenomenal, and which is huge because everybody. I said this the other night. I don't know why everybody's harping on the defense. The offense was the issue in that Toronto game. well, for the ones who saw the defensive issues in that Toronto game over what I saw tonight, those were fixed. I mean, they held the Orlando Magic to under 100 points, and they had a second half of, just looking at the box score here, Orlando had 22 points in the third and 18 points in the fourth quarter. So the Celtics certainly responded. In fourth quarter, Celtics went into that up 20 points. They extended that to 27, which is huge. You'd love to see the lead grow, as you just mentioned during that league tracker segment. And on top of that, guys, fourth quarters have not looked pretty for the Boston Celtics in the last 5 games. Before tonight, the Celtics lost 4 of their last 5 fourth quarters. So certainly showed up defensively tonight. I really liked what I saw in this game.
Being able to get contributions from the bench like they were tonight, it was going on your shot distribution. It seemed like everyone was just getting their looks and no one was playing hero ball, which we've kind of seen from the Celtics in recent games where they've been losing. You've been seeing them trying to make up for lost time or lost shots and trying to put the cape on their shoulders. I think that they've done a good job of being able to spread the ball out, and there's so much talent on this team, being able to get people in their confident looks. It seemed like everyone was just in flow state tonight, and they were able to just contribute to each other's success. And I'm looking across the assist charts right now, not too big on the assist, but they were definitely getting the ball around. You could see that everyone was getting their looks in. It actually almost everyone on the team had got an assist tonight, which is very impressive. But I think that they did a great job of keeping the ball moving and almost knowing when to find the other person. The chemistry on this team was portrayed tonight, and it's really the way the Celtics are going to win this championship, as Joe Mazzulla likes to say, killer whale offense.
Well, this style of offense tonight was just night and day from what we saw in Toronto and really what we've seen out of the Boston Celtics as of late, because what we've seen is really, this team, a lot of stagnation, a lot of just three chucking, a lot of singular action, one pass, three, bam. And that's not how the Celtics need to play, because quite honestly, yes, we want to take a volume of threes, but we don't want to be taking bad 3-point attempts. We want to be moving the ball around, collapsing the defense, and of course, just getting all those great quality looks from the perimeter. And I thought tonight that's what we saw out of the Boston Celtics. And I thought they were very methodical in really getting those looks both on the perimeter and really down low. The offense, it took a little bit to run tonight. It wasn't, 8 seconds into the offense, jack up a shot. It was, all right, we're going to pass the ball about 4 times. It almost reminded me of Hoosiers at some point in time, where it was like, all right, no, we're passing the ball 4 times here. We're passing the ball 5 times here before we actually go and shoot. And from that, the Boston Celtics were just able to consistently get good shots throughout the night. But really looking on the defensive end of the floor for this game, the Orlando Magic, they shot 15% from 3, 15.6% from 3 in this game. Only 15 assists for the entire night for the Orlando Magic. And on the other end, the Boston Celtics, they passed to 25 assists, which that's really inching towards that 30 mark, in which we want to see from elite ball clubs. And it really highlights the fact the Celtics were just doing it on both ends of the floor tonight. And I really think a lot of this just has to do with the team's just emphasis and effort on, we're going to be doing the things in which allows us to win ball games, and not only wins us ball games, but dominates ball games. Because last season, that lead tracker we saw earlier was the norm. What we're talking about tonight was the norm. We were coming in here almost every single game going, and another blowout win for the Celtics. And Tatum and Brown, they're on the bench down the stretch, and they're just smiling and having a good old time. Well, this year it's been few and far between, if not at all. And yet tonight, the Celtics, they go out there and they execute on both ends of the floor like we know they're able to do. And that's what's made this stretch so frustrating for the Boston Celtics, is we know what they're capable of. We're not talking about a 2022 Celtics team, a 2021 Celtics team. Are they meshing, or they're new? No, we just saw them win a championship, go 80-21 for the 8th best record. I believe it was the 8th best record of all time last year. And so we know how dominant this Celtics team can be. And yes, the league is I don't want to say caught up to the Celtics, but it's a dynamic league, like you said, Rob, last post game, and that the league is going to shift. But at the same time, the Celtics, with the same roster, the same cast of characters, they know how well they can play when they're really on their A game on both ends of the floor, passing the ball around, really driving the ball aggressively, and just rotating crisply. I thought tonight was one of the best defensive performances of the season from the Boston Celtics, from the standpoint of the focus was there on the defensive end. I really think this season we have not seen a lot of those performances out of the Boston Celtics after we saw a full season of it last year, and it was on display from preseason. It really never got better from preseason. It really got worse if you think about it from these last couple of games, Sacramento and Toronto. It really got worse for the Boston Celtics. Yet tonight they really flipped the script and come out with one of their best defensive performances of the entire season. So kudos to the Boston Celtics on that. I have another point, but I'm sure I'll remember it on the Celtics later in this post game before we get off here. So anyway,
all right.
Go ahead.
All right. I got two, I think, factors that stood out to me. Obviously the first one, and I put Joe Mazzulla under blast the past couple games for not coaching, in my opinion, up to his capability and what he's capable of doing. Tonight, I thought he was perfect. And when I say coaching, his rotations, it was new, it was different, and it worked. You saw Tatum leave the game in the first and then come back in, and then he played deeper into the second, and you saw Porzingis and Brown taking the court together consistently, and it felt like, okay, this is new. They're trying something. They're steering away from just what of what they've been doing, and that is what I wanted to see from Joe. Listen, it's not bad, right, to go a different direction for a little bit and try something, and it worked. The second point I want to make here tonight, guys, is on the offensive end of the floor. I've touched on it a little bit, but this is the team that Boston needs to be offensively. What do I say all the time? When a team rolls into the TD Garden, or they have the Celtics rolling into their arena, they are hoping and praying with their fingers crossed down on their hands and knees that the Boston Celtics decide to go in there and jack them up. Because when the Celtics are shooting the ball as much as they are this season that we've seen them, right? When they are jacking it, they are not as good as a team as they can be. And tonight they stopped. They didn't jack tonight, guys. And I thought that was really big. So, and again, quality over quantity. I know I had to steal Seamus's phrase. I was surprised.
Guys have the jacket.
There's no jacking for the Celtics from here on out.
Yes, no more. And
don't jack it, Celtics. Don't jack them.
Real quick, Justin.
I
just, again, this Celtics style of ball, this brand of basketball, they're nearly impossible to beat. Because even if Boston didn't shoot 46% from three, making 17, right? 17 of 37 was their final clip. They're still winning this game from the quality of shots they were generating within the paint and their defensive effort. That is the difference. When they're playing defense and generating good shots, they are going to be impossible. I can say it over and over again. You cannot beat them when they're doing that.
The Celtics tonight were playing with the right intentions, and they were executing. And that's something that this team has lacked significantly throughout this 15, 16, 17 game stretch. In something that has been talked about, not only on this show, but also even in the Celtics locker room, it's been the question of lack of effort. And even Kristaps Porzingis came out and said after the game against Toronto, this is a personality thing. This is, we are playing with no personality, no effort. Celtics came out tonight very, very, very dialed in, very engaged. And if there's anything that I've been so prominent in saying on this program, it's that the starters need to come out. They need to stop laying a goose egg in the first quarter. These 15-5 runs, these 18-2 run, or these 8-2 runs by their opponents, they need to stop. And tonight, Orlando had, I believe the lead tracker said, a 2-3 point lead at one point, but it really never got in question where the Celtics didn't come out and play with effort, and they controlled the game from the tip. So I'm really impressed with how the Celtics came out tonight, and I feel as if they had to come out like this And Rob, you and
Yeah.
I were talking about it
They
this
did.
morning,
They
where
needed
it's
it.
like, not only did we need a win, and not necessarily, I'm not saying a blowout win at all, but we needed a win similar to this, where we're locked in, we're executing. You mentioned the rotation switched up, and I really like the way Joe handled that. Switched it up. He used his timeouts a lot tonight, not even giving Orlando the slightest chance to go on a run tonight. There was 2 timeouts left in the chamber for the Celtics with 9 minutes left in this game. Do you know how rare that is for Joe Mazzulla and his coaching staff to have only 2 timeouts with nearly an entire quarter left to play? That's very rare. So Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff were on this tonight, and I really like this game by the Boston Celtics. And we'll get in way later on towards the end of the show. We'll get into the matchup with the Atlanta Hawks later on tonight because they play Atlanta tomorrow. Atlanta's another team that beat us so earlier in the season, similar to Orlando. So I'm expecting something like this tomorrow night.
And you know what? You mentioned those first quarters. This is something we talked about last postgame show. Not only did Boston, and again, Orlando's a great team. Paulo's back. Obviously, they're still missing Franz Wagner. And, when Wagner comes back, they're going to be much, much tougher to beat. So they're kind of still working things out down there in Orlando. But this was a game where I was okay if this wasn't a blowout, right? Like if we looked good and we're doing the right things and we're playing good. This is a game on ESPN at home against the Orlando. Like this is going to be a tough game. So they needed to come out, right? They needed to come out strong. We haven't seen them, guys, in that first quarter, end the quarter with like a good lead, a substantial lead, coming out hot in so long. And they did that. And to me, I said this to start the show, guys. Like, I don't know about you guys, but they came out. I was watching. I was like, okay, we're good. They're gonna win this game. You just knew because it wasn't the same old thing.
They played carried over. Yeah, it carried over from quarter to quarter. I mean, the only thing that wasn't continuing the momentum was their Jason Tatum sidestep shots, which I don't know why that's the only thing in the Celtics arsenal, which I don't believe that's the only thing in their bag. I think with Jason Tatum taking those types of shots and teams becoming so accustomed to it that all it's going to take is one kick out to a Drew Holiday or a Derek White standing in the corner or be wide open.
You know what? Tonight, I agree with you. I can count, I think, on one hand the amount of bad shots that were taken. There was a Tatum sidestep, I think 2 of them, one to end the second quarter and then one in the third quarter. He had a mismatch on Wendell Carter. Don't hate that shot. He's he shoots that ball at a very high clip against the big man coming off the dribble, off that left side sidestep. Derek White off the screen, far left corner first half. He took one, not really, it was probably 27, 28 feet out, wasn't his shot. And then Drew Holiday took one in that left corner, which I also believe was in the second quarter. I could be wrong. That was, he had a lane to the basket. He took a 3 off a pump fake. But again, like, that's fine. And then the Pritchard one that was out of bounds, bad shot clock was winding down though. You can't really blame him.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know about you. And Seamus, I kind of want to hear your opinion on this, but like, when was the last time this season we could say, yes, the Celtics only took about 4 bad shots this game throughout the course of a game? It's like they have been
Houston,
pretty poor shot selection. Houston, yeah, but I don't know. Even still, I don't know.
There's not many.
I think that they were finding their looks, and once again,
it's a completely different team than we saw last season.
Fair.
Again, we're gonna have delayed problems because
we got it. Floor is yours.
The internet is not cooperating tonight at all. The internet is not cooperating tonight at all. But anyway, the Celtics really going ahead in this entire season. It's been a different team, really. It's been a completely different team than 2024. I don't know if I just stole Franco's spotlight or what just happened.
You
here,
did, but we were
totally.
We're totally.
But the Celtics team essentially. But the Celtics team entirely from 2024 to 2025 felt like they came into the season and their entire philosophy is just completely different. I mean, it feels like this team is really not honing in on everything they need to do in order to win ball games, especially on the offensive end of the floor, defensively as well. They know last season, we've talked about it so many times, on Postgame, oh, yeah, the Boston Celtics, they look like a collective unit. They look like a cohesive unit. Yet this year they came out and it almost feels like, oh, yeah, they're going to ride the reputation a little bit instead of actually going out there and being the collective unit that we know they can be. And that's resulted in a lot of hero ball. It's resulted in a lot of shot chucking. It's resulted in a lot of just really bad offensive play from the standpoint of shot selection and what we've seen out of the Celtics team really not passing to that extra shot, really not being engaged on that end of the floor, going downhill on some occasions. And yet tonight, that's what you saw, the really best of both worlds for the Boston Celtics tonight. You saw the team going downhill. The shot distribution was phenomenal for the Boston Celtics all around. And you saw the passing. You saw the passing. You saw the collectiveness. You saw the cohesion. And this was one of the few games this season that we've been able to come in here and say that we saw that from the Boston Celtics, because ultimately the occasions have been really few and far between. That's going to be a phrase here for the night, is that these occasions tonight have not been the norm for the Boston Celtics this year, when we know last year they were the norm, and that this can be the norm for the Boston Celtics. So ultimately, maybe, hopefully, this can transpire and persist going ahead into the future for the Celtics, because let's face it, the Celtics have really, I mean, they've swindled, they've duped us as of late, thinking, oh yeah, they're going to turn the corner. Oh, they had a good win here. No, nope. Celtics have not done that as of late. They've put up this type of performance as of late, but we know their capability in doing so. And really tonight, I want to say this is a better Orlando Magic team than we saw down in Orlando, that really gave us a lot of trouble, beat us. I mean, let's face it, they beat us in that game. They gave us a lot of trouble, and we lost that game. They beat us in that particular game. And really coming out against this opponent tonight, much better squad too than the Raptors. I think the Celtics, it's crazy because they're trying to make statements in a few of these games, like the Rockets game. Justin, you mentioned, okay, yeah, that was kind of a statement game with them. Maybe they're getting their feet wet and really getting themselves their mojo back under them, because the night before was Minnesota, and that was a back-to-back. It was Minnesota and then Houston. It was like, okay, here we go. And then we come out strong against Oklahoma City. We won't talk about what happened. What else happened in that particular game? But
it's going to be game 5 of the NBA Finals.
We come out strong against Denver. It's true. We're going to just be mentioning it all season. But really, we come out strong against Denver too in that first quarter, and that really seemed like a stretch in which the Celtics were trying to really get it going, but then they come home and it looks awful. So right now we kind of got to take it with a grain of salt a little bit how tonight's win has gone, but it was in reality, I think, one of the best wins of the season from what the Celtics just came off of, how they responded, how they played, and we're going to have to see more wins stacked on top of this before we really believe in this team moving forward. But again, it's just good stepping stone potentially, because you have to get the first one out of the way first. I mean, that's just what it has to be for the Boston Celtics. It's not all going to come on one night in January at this point in time.
I really hope I don't come back here next post-game show and have to retract the statement, but this one felt a little bit different to me. This type of win, it felt a little bit different. And again, Seamus, I really agree. Take it with a grain of salt. It is their first good win, in my opinion, in probably the month of January. Again, Houston was good, but it was kind of the same play style we had seen. It didn't feel different. It just kind of felt like the shots were going in. But tonight it was at home. You've been putrid at home this season. It was on ESPN. It was against a really good defensive Orlando Magic team, and they did what they needed to do. So it felt a little bit different to me, guys, tonight versus kind of what we've seen, because of, again, what we've been asking for. Switch it up, change it up, do something new. And they did that. And I think that's a positive.
You know why I feel as if it felt different? Obviously, for every reason you just stated, but also, like, don't forget, like, most of these wins in the last 15 games are like, oh, win is a win. Oh, we just scraped by. Like, we truly dominated tonight. Like, they really dominated. And then you're coming off this West Coast trip where, yeah, you did go 3-1. You had some really solid wins in there. Absolutely, for sure. But if you ask me, Seamus, I'm going to feed into it. That second half in Oklahoma City, that I'll feed into it a little bit. We talk about being 3-1 in that road trip. It really didn't feel like 3-1 because of how poorly the Celtics played in that Oklahoma City game. And then that Denver game without Jokic, Celtics did win that game by double digits, but don't let that final score, really tell you anything. Nuggets hung around in that game. They held their own in that game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you come home and you're like, okay, 3-1 road trip, here we go. Sacramento blows us out in the fourth quarter. Celtics lose by 17 at home. And then you take it throughout the New Orleans games. Oh, a win is a win. That was like the worst win I've ever witnessed, by the way. It was
a loss.
It really should have, it's one of those games where you go into the locker room and you're just as pissed off if you lost the game because you won the game so horrifically. And then you lay a giant egg against the Toronto Raptors, a giant egg against the Toronto Raptors. So, this is the first time it really feels like we won a game in a little bit, despite being every other game we've actually won a game. It really feels like the Celtics took this game and ran with it, and that's exactly what they did. And we did a few moments ago, we looked at the lead tracker. You saw that lead fluently just go up and up and up and up. It's not like it teetered a little bit. It's not like Boston had it to 27 and Orlando cut it to 18. No, Boston, when they ran away with it, they ran away with it. And this was a really, really good win for them. But again, like Seamus just mentioned, I don't know if this is enough. We need to see more games similar to this, not necessarily from a blowout standpoint, but from the execution standpoint, to really kind of build that trust back. Not that we lost a tremendous amount of it, but to be out of this slump, we need to see more of what we saw tonight for 48 minutes.
Would it be fair to say that this was the almost what feels like could be the shift-changing game? I mean, we've said stepping stones. We've been repeating ourselves, stepping stones.
Right.
We have enough rocks to be skipping them. I think that they're doing a good job of really getting that reputation out of the way. I think that was the real camel that broke or the straw that broke the camel's back was the last loss. I think that they really have been playing with a lot of reputations on the line. Not to feed into narratives or anything, JB not even able to make Team USA. Jason Tatum not being able to play for Team USA while getting minimal minutes, if any. I think that really kind of triggered them and really forced them to really focus in on their individual performances. And I think they just decided to cut the shit. I think that they really decided to take things into their own hands and really stop playing for themselves. I think they started to play as a team and as a collective, as you guys said, but I think this is a real momentum changer just due to the fact of how they won tonight's game, not the fact that they won by 27 points. I think if they wanted to shift the momentum, it would have been during their blowout win against the Raptors a few weeks ago, but I don't think that was enough because that was really a whole bunch of independent performances. You didn't see too much of the team mending together. This was the first time you really saw the team gel.
So I'm going to say something real quick. And I don't know if it's so this is my vision. This season is very, very similar to 2022, 2023 in terms of the course of it. Both teams through the first 25 games were shooting at a historic clip from behind the arc. Shots were falling. It was good. Then the next 20 games, the shots stopped falling, got a little bumpy. It was rough. The next is the question mark for me. Now, I do want to preface this. While it can play a lot like the 2022-2023 season in my mind, this team, talent-wise, is so much more advanced than that 2022-2023 team where, for me, I do think there could potentially be in the future another stretch of 5 or so games that the Celtics go back to sleep. And to me, that's what tonight showed me, that the Celtics, and you know what? I was wrong, right? I said this. I came on the Raptors show and I said this isn't an effort. This isn't energy. This is them not being able to perform. And I was wrong. No, this is effort. This is energy. So I do want to say I think my out in this game changes my outlook a little bit. Thank you. You know, I take accountability when I'm wrong.
Bullshit, you do. Okay.
But I do want to say, like, if there is another bad stretch, this game changes my outlook, I think, because it shows me that this team is so good and so talented where in the playoffs, they know what to do. They know how to perform. They know what works and what doesn't. My one concern and why I need this trend to keep going is because I am a firm believer that momentum is everything in the playoffs. And if you head into the playoffs not performing well and not doing the little things and not having good habits, that can really bite you in the ass. Yeah. And that is why. So I will say this, there could be another bad stretch of basketball, right? And this team might be very similar to 2022, 2023 in terms of how the season's playing out. They're sleeping. They're really not waking up for so many games, but their talent, what Brad Stevens has put together, guys, I think that is good enough for this team to be ready to go come April. There's a lot of ball left, but I'm expecting them to be ready to go. With that said, build good habits.
Is 2022, 2023, was that the season where we were below 500 at the trade deadline?
No, that's the prior. So 2022, 2023 was the year after with Brogdon, and we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we went down 0-3.
Because I was going to say, you know, Celtics went into the playoffs hot and they made that Eastern Conference Finals run. I think, right? Trade deadline. We went to the finals that year, right? We traded Schroeder away and we
not
were
2022. I was 21-22.
No, I know, but that
right.
You just said you want to go into the playoffs with full momentum. Remember that year we went trade deadline, we were below 500, and all of a sudden Celtics strung together historic second half of the season, one of the best turnarounds of regular season. And they took that momentum and they made it deep in the playoffs that year. And I agree, Rob, that's something you need to see. And again, you talk about the momentum. I need to see it. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to sound like a downer. I'm going to enjoy this win tonight because we haven't gotten the chance to have this type of win in a really long time. But if we lose to Atlanta tomorrow, all this wiped away, in my opinion.
Slammed again.
No, Rob, and I get it. We are capable of doing this, but like the vibe of it, it's like it'll be very gross to me. Like that last Milwaukee game, and I get it, second night of a back-to-back, whatever. I think I forget if we were down a couple guys, but that Memphis game that we lost, for me, took some value away from that Milwaukee game. And I've said this before, but
can I say something about that Memphis game?
Sure, it's your show. You can say it.
Oh, no, it's our show. So I'm going to stop all that. There's something about that Memphis game. That was kind of the first time to me where I was questioning, like, oh, what are we doing here? That Memphis game, right? Second half of back-to-back, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right on that?
What'd you say?
That Memphis game, second night of. So he doesn't even listen. He doesn't even listen. He doesn't even, you wonder why I get. Yes, thank you, Seamus. Yes, he's on his head. Yes, it was.
He's delayed.
Seamus is delayed and he's listening, Justin. Unreal. But yeah, second out of a back-to-back. And their shot quality was poor. So for the first time there, that Memphis game kind of stood out to me, whereas this is where I think it was going to go downhill.
Yeah.
Well, I might be like 5-10 seconds delayed. I have no idea what's going on here. Can't hear half the conversation, but yeah, that Memphis game, I believe that was the first data point where we were side-eyeing this team, because at that point in the season, it was a lot sooner in the season from the standpoint of, oh yeah, we started out 19-4. We're still ramping up, right? Like we're 19-4. We haven't even played that well yet. Oh, we have a great record. And then that loss came about, and really the Cleveland loss before that too. Those were the two data points earlier that, these two good teams we're facing right now, we really didn't show up against at all. And the night before we had that Milwaukee game, and Milwaukee, for as bad as they've been, they really came to compete in that contest. And the Celtics, you guys hear meow meow in the back.
Yeah, I hear meow meow.
But anyway, but Milwaukee in that Friday game, that was a good game for the Boston Celtics. Things are just going awry tonight on my end. I'll say that right now. But anyway, The Boston Celtics came out against the Memphis Grizzlies that night, and it just washed away everything that we did well against Milwaukee, because in that Milwaukee game, the Celtics really established a lot of things that we hadn't seen in the beginning portion of the season, such as, oh, Drew Holiday and Al Horford. Look at the veterans come out to play against one of the biggest opponents in the Eastern Conference, somebody that we might see in round 1, round 2, maybe even round 3, who knows. And just moving on in time, that was supposed to be a good solidifying win for the Boston Celtics in some case, yet the next night you face the Grizzlies. And there was no excuse. We came on this post game. We weren't excusing the back to back, because the way the Celtics lost was so atrocious that night, just getting out rebounded, letting the Grizzlies go downhill on them, just being beat in transition the entirety of the game. The Boston Celtics, it was a poor showing all around. And the second night of a back to back at home, mind you, at home, that's different. Second night of back when you're on the road and going somewhere else. No, these two games were at home, and ultimately that just completely wiped away that Milwaukee Bucks game. So going into tomorrow's game against the Atlanta Hawks and even the West Coast road trip, there's a lot of chance for the Celtics to solidify this win tonight as potentially a turning point, but at the same time, there's a lot of chance in front of us to also prove that maybe this wasn't our turning point. So that's why we do have to be careful with this conversation of the team, because we've seen multiple points already, actually, in the last really 14 15 games where look at this Pacers win, we beat them by 38, here we go, Raptors beat them by 54. You go on a 3-game winning streak against the Raptors, the Timberwolves, and the Rockets on the road, and we're going, okay, look at this 3-game winning streak, this is what we need to do. And it just all falls down after that. So even if there's a 3-game winning streak after this particular game, Celtics still have to play consistent basketball going ahead into the future, no matter what. And a clunker here and there is okay, but when you're doing it every other night, like the Celtics have been doing for the past month, that's just unacceptable for a team trying to go back to back. And really, what I forgot earlier on the point of this game tonight is this is the most efficient game we've seen out of the Boston Celtics on the offensive end of the floor. Then we've seen, really, I can't even remember the last time the Celtics looked this efficient. You think about the shot attempts the Celtics took tonight relative to the amount of points they scored. 80 shot attempts on the night. Only 80. All right, that's fairly low for today's NBA. They score 121 anyway. The Celtics score 121 anyway, and they shoot 42 of 80, which is over 50%, 52.5%. And then from three-point land, you didn't see the jacking tonight. It wasn't the Celtics just jacking off the catch all night. It wasn't the Celtics jacking off the dribble all night long. It was the Celtics really methodically finding those open three-point shots and taking timely three-point shots, because 37 attempts tonight. I know we want to take the Celtics want to take a volume of threes, but that doesn't always mean that there's going to be 50 good threes available, 60 good threes available. Take the threes in which are best quality if you're the Boston Celtics. And if that's 37 on the night, go ahead and take 37, because the Boston Celtics shot 17 of 37 on the night, 45.9%. The shooting lines were ultra efficient for the Celtics. And let's shout them out here too. 20 of 22 from the free throw line. Now, they did give up 31 free throws, and they gave up a lot of free throws in that first quarter, I will say. You want to see that if you want to critique anything for the Celtics in this game, you want to see that free throw number in terms of the fouling for the Celtics. You want to see that a little bit lower, but still 20 of 22 on the night. The Celtics actually hit their free throws. They went 9 of 18 the other night in Toronto, and that really bit them. So 90% from the free throw line tonight. And you really look at it on the other end of the floor. I mean, Orlando missed 10 free throws. They were 21 of 31. But just the 3-point discrepancy is really what stands out, because the Celtics, they were really able to build some of their reputation. Now, from last season, and I will say, it was on both ends of the floor last season. It was aside from just their 3-point shooting. But a big part of their reputation from last season was, when other teams come into the Garden, in particular at home too. Remember how good we were at home last season. But the Celtics would just outshoot everybody. And tonight, 5 of 32 from 3 for the Orlando Magic. 5 of 32, that's 15.6%, as I mentioned earlier. And for the Celtics, 17 of 37. So there's only a 5 attempt discrepancy in there, a 5 attempt discrepancy between 37 and 32 between the Magic and Celtics, yet the Celtics had 12 more 3-pointers. I mean, that's really what can boost the margins for the Celtics and really turn a game into a lopsided affair. And I want to add this too. Celtics won every quarter tonight, even the fourth quarter when the game was well decided. That's a point of optimism I want to bring to the stage here too, because the Celtics, even in some of the wins, we go, second quarter, third quarter. Think about the Denver game. First quarter, great. Fourth quarter, great. And in between, not so great. Even in Houston, I believe we lost a quarter, even though we blew them out. The Celtics blew out the Houston Rockets. And I believe the Toronto game, 54 point win. Somehow the Celtics actually lose a quarter in that game. Yet tonight they win every single quarter. And that is also important for this Boston Celtics team, is just to not drop those random quarters, not let themselves go on those random 12-minute runs of, we lost a quarter. We're even with this team who we should really just be running in front of constantly. And of course, that lead tracker, that says a lot about it as well. So the Celtics, still a lot to be said on the horizon, still a lot to be had, but tonight was just a great, great performance that you really hope transpires heading into the future, and particularly tomorrow night against the Atlanta Hawks.
Without a doubt. And tonight, guys, we got to talk about a certain somebody who really stood out. That man's name goes by the name of Jason Tatum. Guys, however, before we talk about Jason Tatum's performance tonight against Orlando at home, I do want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of the post-game show, SeatGeek. Guys, SeatGeek is the best ticketing app out there on the market. SeatGeek, guys, will have you covered for the best prices all season long, guys. Not just basketball and sports, though. They got you covered for all live events, guys. Use code Celtics Weekly at checkout for $20 off your first purchase, guys. Again, shout out SeatGeek. You can find that link in the top of the description down below. Guys, let's talk about Jason Tatum tonight. Obviously, we have heard the noise on this guy. I'm going to give a quick shout out to ESPN. They were hyping up JT for like the first time, I think, in a long time. I know, I was very surprised. You guys, Tatum tonight in his dominant performance with his alma mater, Duke. I guess not alma mater, but with Cooper Flagg and them and company. In the crowd, guys, Tatum tonight, 30 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 stocks, which is very impressive in my eyes. 12 of 21 from the floor, 4 of 9 from deep. Guys, we talk about Jason Tatum. This guy has been a guy that has been a big catalyst for what the Celtics have been doing this season. It feels like he has been the driving force to this team, guys. Tonight, Tatum was able to really take advantage of Orlando and get into that paint. What did we like? What did you see out of Jason Tatum tonight?
I want to see if I can do this right here. I don't think I can. I wanted to try to share my screen, but Tatum went 6 for 6 in the paint tonight. I have Tatum's shot chart pulled up in my next tab. 6 for 6 in the paint tonight. 8 of his, I think, 12 field goals were inside of it, or 12 field goals attempts were inside the 3-point line, and 8 of them were makes. So 8 for 12 in 2-point range is spectacular tonight. I love his drive. I'm a broken record, but I need to see Jason Tatum get to the rim. It is a cherry on top when you have a 6'10" guy who can stretch the floor and shoot that 3. But in my opinion, his game is best used in the mid-range, attacking, driving, scoring. That's the Jason Tatum that we need to see. That's the Jason Tatum that gets him in the MVP conversation. And that's the Jason Tatum that isn't so goddamn soft. I need to see this from Jason Tatum more and more as the season goes on, especially against a team like the Orlando Magic, who is very, very, very physical. You drive, you get fouled, you get to the free throw line. That's how Jason Tatum needs to continue to play. I mean, he's spectacular. He shot 9 3-point attempts tonight, hit 4 of them. That's pretty efficient. Not terrible, but I really liked what I saw from inside the paint tonight from Jason Tatum. Really good game. Helped set the tone early for the Celtics, which, again, I talked about it earlier. The starters need to set a better example and need to set the tone in the first quarter. He did just that tonight.
Getting to the rim is such a big part of Jason Tatum's game that we really need to see much more of. I think since he's acclimated that point of it into the game and made that a real emphasis upon his game, we've really seen him get to the astronomical point of being an MVP contender. This is when he is able to make these conversations happen amongst SGA, Nikola Jokic, and he's just bringing a brand new aspect to his game, and you see how much it opens up the court for everyone else. I think that you're seeing when he's being able to get his looks, you're seeing the team be able to mend around it. He was creating so many open looks for Derek White, and there were a couple plays that he was cutting to the rim. He was running pick and rolls. Pick and rolls with Porzingis were working phenomenally tonight. He was able to get players in open looks, and also on the defensive end, he was really showing the key word of tonight is effort, and it has been the key word of this show for the past 2 weeks. When are we going to see show effort? When are we going to see them really getting gritty and getting to the paint, being able to get their defense going, being able to make stops on the end, and being able to start transition offense and being able to stop transition with transition defense? We're going to see that happen a lot more, and it all starts with Jason Tatum. Sure, I have been quoted on our podcast saying that Jaylen Brown is the captain-esque player, but when it comes down to this team and how they play and what progress they're going to make, it all starts with Jason Tatum because he's the lead by example type of player.
I got to ask, Seamus, we got you back here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear, but I think I might be like
Is it
5
still
seconds
delayed?
delayed.
Okay, it's still delayed. Okay, that's okay. I'm just double checking here.
Jason Tatum.
We could probably get off a full point before he gets off his.
I'm like a correspondent. Like, all right, and throw it to Seamus. And I'm like, all right, and now we wait 5 seconds for me, and here we go. But I'm just going to continuously talk about Jason Tatum right now since I have the floor, and the transition over to me is just not smooth tonight whatsoever. But Jason Tatum, this performance tonight is the Tatum performance that we needed to see, because look at his shot numbers. 12 of 21 from the floor, scores 30 points tonight, and really just plays an all-around game. And Jason Tatum, there's really not a ton you could say for him lately in terms of the bad for Jason Tatum. Now tonight he took 9 3-point attempts, 4 of 9 from the floor, 44.4%. And you look at really from two, he's 8 of 12, right? 8 of 12 from 2-point land tonight. So from both the 3-point arc and inside the 3-point arc, super efficient night for Jason Tatum just in terms of the raw numbers alone. But Jason Tatum, he's always the tone setter on this Boston Celtics team. He really is. And him and Jaylen Brown, they are the two tone setters for the Boston Celtics. If Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they had terrible performances the other night. Now, if you really want to take away from Tatum's MVP campaign, the other night was certainly the time to do it so against the Toronto Raptors, because he came out and played one of his worst games of the entire season. And we see the Celtics, from the rest of the team's standpoint, they've played one of their worst games of the entire season. So when Tatum and Brown, they're not both playing well, or one of them's really not playing well, the entire team suffers. And Jason Tatum tonight, well, he came out with a much different, just like the rest of the team again, is talking about tone setting, came out with a much different energy tonight. And I really thought defensively rotating, Tatum, he's one of the Celtics' best defensive players. You think about a long athletic wing who can really defend multiple positions, like 1 through 4, or even a 5 if you really want to go that big with Jason Tatum. He can defend pretty much every position on the floor. And just think last game, Jason Tatum in the breakdowns, there was moments where we're looking at him going, what is going on with the closeouts? What is going on with the rotations here, specifically with Brown and Tatum? Now, some other players, sometimes I don't want to say we expect it from them, but if there's some defensive lulls here and there, it's not too surprising. But from Brown and Tatum, they have to be the tone setters on both ends of the floor, particularly on the defensive end, and really, especially if you're talking about Tatum and his MVP campaign, you cannot be giving up defensive possessions if you're Jason Tatum. And that's what he did last game, yet tonight, that wasn't the case at all. It really wasn't. And Jason Tatum brought his A game on that end of the floor. And I really want to highlight too, Justin, you were right when we were talking about the effort of the team after the Sacramento Kings game. Now, I do want to say, yeah, it's January. The effort's not always going to be there every single game in January. And I do believe the Celtics team is going to turn around their effort. But defensively, I'm looking at that end of the floor for both Tatum, Brown, and the rest of the team. It's all effort. It's all effort. And Jason Tatum, if he wants to win the MVP one day, which this year he may not win it, who knows? He could go on a run the rest of the season. But you have to be giving your all on every single possession. You cannot let the questions of effort rise within the situation around surrounding the team or yourself. And really last game, that's what was getting scary about this team, and what has been getting scary about this team as of late is just those effort problems from the Boston Celtics. And it does stem from the top and it does trickle down. It really has been everybody as of late. But when you start seeing your star players really not hit on the details, that's not a good sign whatsoever. Yet tonight, it was like the script was flipped from so many different perspectives. And really, Jason Tatum, this is the type of performance the Celtics needed out of Tatum, both offensively and defensively. I know we can say as much as we want on the offensive end because he scored 30 points. He was efficient from the floor in terms of shooting and really going downhill and finding his shot. But defensively, too, is what really stuck out to me tonight, how Jason Tatum made his impact on this game, because lately he just hasn't been all that. He hasn't been all there this season for the Boston Celtics at times, specifically during this last stretch. And tonight, it completely changes, and that's really what you want to see out of both Tatum and the Celtics moving forward. So it's not just a Tatum conversation. It really is the entire team, because Jason Tatum, he is really the tone setter for this entire team, along with Jaylen Brown.
You know who else is a tone setter? Who's a tone setter? Rob, go ahead. Make your final point before I tell you who else is a tone setter.
Well, I mean, it plays off of Seamus real quick. That is exactly
Luke Cornett again.
That is exactly, like, we know what Tatum can bring offensively, but the bench guys are going to get up and realize it's important when Tatum starts being active on defense. He was really active on defense tonight. So big shout out to Tatum, big shout out to Brown too. The two of them, when they're playing defense, that's what makes them so special, right? We get how talented they are offensively, but they're kind of, what sets them over the edge versus the rest of the field is their two-way ability, and they showed that tonight. So very, very, very pleased with Tatum's performance.
Tatum, Brown, they had it all. Who else had it all? It was Kristaps Porzingis, 23 points, 4 rebounds, and assists. An extremely efficient night, shooting the basketball 7 of 10, 3 of 5 from distance. KP just did it all. Guys, hey, you guys like hoops gear? You guys like hoops gear, yes or no?
I love hoops gear. I was playing basketball today.
You do have Bucket Squad merch, Rob. If I do recall, you do have some Bucket Squad merch. So go ahead, go on Bucket Squad, get some hoops merch. Use code Celtics Weekly, right, Rob? This is a new read for me. Celtics Talk Weekly. Use code Celtics Talk Weekly at checkout for 10% off. I will say they get some fire gear. We're going to take the graphic off here, and Rob has got some shorts. Look at those.
This is part of their all-star collection.
Franco looks like an idiot. But
Justin, come on.
Look at that.
Look at
High
that.
quality, guys.
So
High quality.
Use code Celtics Talk Weekly at checkout. Get 10% off your purchase. Some great gear. Great gear to work out in. Great gear to wear around the house. Great gear to hoop in. Against code Celtics Talk Weekly for 10% off. Kristaps Porzingis had it rolling tonight. Played pretty solid in that. Was it the Toronto game? Yeah, that's what we played last. Tonight he came out, played really solid, very efficient from the floor, 23 points. Franco, I'll start with you, my man. What'd you like from KP tonight? Because he was doing it all.
His offensive performance and efficiency is something that the Celtics have direly needed this season. I think that tonight was the first time we've been able to see him find that flow of being able to get those open looks from three-pointer and them actually falling. There was a sense of him having his confidence back. I feel like he's still been kind of teetering back and forth with the injuries. I know that those are lingering ones, and there was a drive, I think it was during the third or fourth quarter, where he got a open fast break layup or a fast break dunk, and I saw Wendell Carter right on his ass, and I thought that I was almost had a stroke when I saw that happen. I think that being able to see him have that durability and almost look like the 100% player, physically healthy, and is going to impact him on the mental side of things. And I think he's starting to really find his groove into the offense. I think we're going to see him starting to participate more and more in games. As I think that I don't think he'll play tomorrow night against the Atlanta Hawks due to the back-to-back, but
They're saying he will.
I won't. Yeah, I don't question it. I think that he should be able to play these games as long as he's
You just
playing.
did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You said, I don't know if he'll play in the first. I don't know if he'll play tomorrow because it's a back-to-back. And then I said,
Well, I
he's
said
playing.
I don't know, but you said that he should. But
2 words.
I didn't say
Chris
I
Paul,
didn't.
Steve Nash, must see TV.
I'm getting Charles Barkley down here. I'm cooked. But I think that if Kristaps can start to play in more back-to-back games, being more available to this team, not having any restrictions in how he's playing or who he's playing against, I think we'll start to see that all-star and that the third star of the Boston Celtics really start to step up and be able to have these performances that I don't think he'll be considered for an all-star appearance this year, but I think that if he continues this, he can make a case in the late runnings.
Yeah, I'll hop in here and then I'll let you roll through, Seamus, just real quick, just to make this. I love Porzingis. We talk about it all the time. He's a difference maker. He's what puts this team over the edge. Tonight, he spaced the floor very, very efficiently. He knew when to attack. He knew when to pop. It was dynamic. I think defensively, he only had 1 block, but his interior presence was felt. And I agree with the Flowers tonight. I do. I usually do. Tonight specifically, I thought KP. I thought KP was big time for the C's.
Seamus hasn't agreed with one
Kristaps
player.
Porzingis.
So I don't care.
Wait, me?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're the
now
one
we
who
can
makes
hear.
the graphic.
Me?
I just it's like in the cartoons. You just see the steam roll out of his ears when he's making the graphic. Yeah, Flowers. You don't agree?
No,
with
there's no other player. You could give. Well, you could have. Well, let's tell the truth here. You wanted to give Tatum the flowers tonight.
I did, but
not?
it's Rob's program, so I let Rob pick player spotlight.
All right, I don't like this joke he's got going on. Someone's got to put Justin in his place. All right.
Someone's got to get to him. He's causing trouble tonight.
But regardless, Kristaps Porzingis or Jason Tatum, they could have both had flowers. They could have both had player of the game tonight because they were both that good. And Kristaps Porzingis, I thought what stood out early and what stood out lately with Kristaps Porzingis that we haven't been able to talk about because of just how bad the Celtics have been playing lately, and we haven't been able to talk about anything good, is really Kristaps. He has been taking advantage of the mismatches down inside the post as of late. And yeah, there's been a couple occasions where, say against New Orleans, he jacked up 7 3-point attempts to 1 2-point attempt in the first half in that game. But for the most part, Kristaps Porzingis, he's been very effective in really hunting that mismatch and going to work in the post. And really from that, Kristaps cannot, well, for one, he can score over those guys, right? So everybody's thinking, oh, mismatch, you're going to go up and score over everybody and be one of the most efficient paint scorers in the entire NBA. But really what that does is when you have a mismatch, teams want to switch off that mismatch and really want to double team that mismatch. And what Kristaps Porzingis draws to himself in those opportunities for the Celtics really is when you have 2 players hone in on Kristaps and collapse on Kristaps. Well, what does it do? It leaves somebody wide open on the perimeter. And that's actually what we saw in that Denver breakdown about a week or 2 ago is Kristaps Porzingis. There was a play that, oh yeah, he had a mismatch in the low post and he could have easily taken that matchup down and scored on him. But hey, Russell Westbrook, he helped on that matchup. And then all of a sudden, Drew Holiday wide open from atop the key from the wing for three. And that was a big 3-point shot in that game because the Celtics, the Nuggets were hanging around in that game, but then eventually the Celtics pulled away. And that was a possession in that game where the Celtics were able to establish themselves pulling away, as that Kristaps Porzingis mismatch. Two comes and Kristaps Porzingis makes the right read, passes out to an open three. So it's not just Kristaps taking advantage of the mismatch in terms of just scoring. We like to look at his scoring line a lot and the shot distribution with Kristaps, but ultimately just passing out to those easy assists, those easy buckets on the perimeter as well. So really Kristaps, he's been phenomenal in terms of taking advantage of that portion of the game as of late. And really that's what the Celtics got Kristaps for, because not only on the defensive end of the floor, now Kristaps could be a lot better defensively, I will say, than he has been as of late. But defensively, he can still be a shot deterrer, whether it's on the perimeter or really inside the paint. That's really what you're looking at from Kristaps Porzingis. He's that last line of defense for the Boston Celtics on the defensive end of the floor. But really, what the Celtics got him for is his offensive talents and really bringing the entire team around on the offensive end of the floor and just making this team one of the best offensive units in NBA history last year and one of the most prolific three-point shooting teams last year. That's what the Celtics got Kristaps Porzingis for, is the offensive end of the floor. Yes, he brings a defensive presence as well, being that 7'3" center with his frame, but offensively, he can really affect the game for the Boston Celtics in a way that a lot of centers cannot affect other teams. And Kristaps, we saw in this game him do just that. And really, as of late, he's been able to do that with the Celtics. And it's so odd. People keep bringing up the record with Porzingis. I believe we're 7-8. I know we might be something else with Kristaps Porzingis. I don't know. There's a lot of records people are throwing out right now with the Boston Celtics, but essentially we're 500 with Kristaps Porzingis, which is just a theme with this team as of late. And people want to point to, since Porzingis came back in the lineup, maybe is Porzingis a problem? And ultimately, I just think that's just a fallacy in terms of, is it Porzingis who affect? No, Porzingis makes this team substantially better. And just because the Celtics have a putrid record since he came back on the floor, that's merely a coincidence for how the Celtics have been playing as of late and not a direct result of Porzingis. Now, yes, he's had some clunkers here and there, but for the most part, Porzingis, he's been a bright spot for the Celtics team. And when he's playing at his best, he affects the game like no other center can around the league, and especially for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I just want to address that point because that's a great point on the Porzingis and the record and the correlation, because there was an Instagram post that went up, and I think I think when Porzingis has been in the game and playing and active, I think it's brought a sense of complacency out of the Celtics team. Nice, Porzingis is here, we're good, we got KP, right? And I think Porzingis kind of has that, I'm back in, I'm the, and I think everyone just gets a little complacent when KP's there. He's the comfortable guy, he settles everyone down a little bit. And I think that's kind of shown recently. But again, tonight he was there and they were paid attention to details and showed up, and it was a much different story, guys. However, let's talk about tomorrow night, because we're going to be right back here against the Atlanta Hawks, guys. Now, again, we want to see this thing carry over. What are you looking at or looking most forward to against the Atlanta Hawks?
Well, first and foremost, moving on to the Atlanta game, but staying on the point of Kristaps Porzingis, it's sounding like, I'm on Celtics Twitter right now, it's sounding like Kristaps Porzingis is interested in playing tomorrow. It sounds like there's a more likely chance he will play tomorrow. It's not a guaranteed yet, but it's sounding like there's an opportunity for him to suit up and play tomorrow, which I'm not sure we've seen yet this season. Kristaps Porzingis playing in back-to-back games. So I'll be really interested to see how specifically Kristaps Porzingis plays tomorrow, if he does end up suiting up and is available to give it a go tomorrow. So definitely going to keep my eye on Kristaps Porzingis if he is playing. Again, same thing as I said earlier tonight before the game started. I'm going to be interested to see how the Celtics respond first, and if they can throw the first punch to the Atlanta Hawks team. Similar to tonight's matchup against the Orlando Magic, this is a team that punked the Celtics earlier in this regular season, where the Orlando Magic were missing their NBA Cup. They were missing their superstar Paolo Banchero in the first game. Then flash forward tomorrow night's matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, sounding like they're going to have Trae Young available, who was out in their first matchup. It was their superstar, Trae Young. So Celtics going to want to get back on the Atlanta Hawks, and I think it would make tonight's win so much sweeter. And Rob, your point on momentum going into the playoffs. How about momentum going into another West Coast trip? You were just on the West Coast, or in the Western Conference last week, and you went 3-1. You want to go into California? They're playing, I believe they're playing all three California teams: the Warriors, the Lakers, and the Clippers in the span of like 4 or 5 days. You want to go into that road trip with some momentum as well. So big one against the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow. And again, I said this when we lost our last back-to-back. There's no excuses on back-to-back. Celtics are very, very good on second nights of back-to-back since Joe Mazzulla took over as his head coach. There is zero excuse to go in tomorrow and dog this. Just because the Celtics finally got a satisfying win does not mean you could just lay back and just relax. Say, we got the win we were looking for. We know we're capable of doing this at any given night. No, you have been playing a terrible stretch of basketball. As Seamus mentioned earlier, it's going to take a lot more than a one-win blowout win over the Orlando Magic to get back on track. So I'm going to look tomorrow night as a big game for the Boston Celtics and to come back and win. I don't know. Should I guarantee it? You want me to guarantee it, Rob? Do you want me to guarantee it?
We don't guarantee nothing.
Don't guarantee it.
Why?
Don't
I guaranteed the Orlando Magic and we won. You didn't want to mention that. You didn't want to
You
mention
should have
that.
guaranteed tonight.
I did guarantee tonight. I did. I can't stand you guys. Oh my God. This is exactly why I'm switching to Pistons Talk Weekly.
Justin lives in his own
but
world.
it's not on the post game. You
Justin
guaranteed over
literally-
text.
He
I
lives
didn't.
in his own world. He lives in his own world sometimes.
No, I don't. I have the clip. I will gladly show it. I will gladly pull it up when I get the chance to transfer it over. I did. But no, on a serious note, I need the Celtics to follow up tonight's game with another really good looking win tomorrow night. Doesn't have to be a blowout, doesn't have to be, win by 51, but I need that. Thank you, Ravens Orioles. This is exactly why we have a subscriber of the year award going out. I don't know if you know this. I just created this up right now, and Ravens is clearly in the front running. But again, serious note, need the Celtics to go out and dominate tomorrow once again. Back to back, no excuse. We've been solid on second nights of back to back. That's not an excuse, especially when you're a championship contending team.
Yeah. To do a callback on my initial thoughts, I said that the Celtics team shouldn't be complacent with a win. They need to be complacent with wins. I think that taking it game by game is key for them, but being able to string this together is going to be a huge, huge thing, especially heading into a Western Conference trip. I think that they're going to really need to pull out a win tomorrow, and it doesn't have to be in the wire-to-wire fashion. Boy, would it be nice if they could do that. But I think just being able to really continue the offensive flow that they had tonight, being able to continue to distribute the shots. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow night's Jaylen Brown's night to have 30, and it's one of those nights where you're getting the ball spread around, and we're seeing Kristaps or Derek White also contributing in the scoring charts. And I really care about the assists, and Atlanta is a team that cost the team or the Celtics a NBA Cup earlier on this season, so there should be a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth. I think that they should be able to take full advantage of the mismatch, especially if Kristaps is back, having Clint Capella or Clint Capella guarding Kristaps, that opens up the paint a lot more, especially if you're running 5 out. So I think that just being able to take advantage of your depth, being able to manage your rotation as Joe did very well tonight. I think that, as we've always said, building blocks, building blocks, building blocks. This would be a major building block and really would kind of prove that this team is ready to shift gears and really put this inconsistent play behind them.
And even with the win over Atlanta, like, we are so far deep into the Celtics 500 streak right now that they're going to have to perform well in the West Coast road trip as well if we're going to really say that this team again, I said the other night, the term is this team back is a little bit flawed, but in terms of being back, I do agree with Rob's point that he made on Postgame the other night that, yeah, well, when we're back is when we're playing consistent again, but we have to play consistent the whole season to really win the title. So that was my point on that. But it's like I do agree that there is a sense of being back, even if we still have to play the whole season out. But if the Celtics, this is the building blocks to get there. You have to go game by game. It's not all going to happen in one Friday night blowout against the Orlando Magic. It has to persist over a consistent stretch of weeks and even months from here on out. And the Boston Celtics going into tomorrow's game, this is the most important game really on the horizon. Forget the West Coast road trip. Yes, they're going to have to perform good on the West Coast road trip. They're going to have to perform well on the West Coast road trip in order to really say they've turned the corner a little bit. Sure, but still, the one game in front of it's like March Madness at this point, because the Celtics lose tomorrow night, even if it's barely, we're back. We're back in the wrong conversation. We're not back. We are back in the 500 conversation yet again. We're going 8-8 in the last 16. Great. So the Celtics, this is a huge game for them tomorrow. As weird as it is to say in January, because at some point the ship has to turn around. The Celtics have to be going in the right direction. And so far, I'm not going to ring the alarm bells because it is January and there's still a lot of time left in the season for the Celtics to do so. But if it just continues and continues and continues past All-Star break or into All-Star break and then past All-Star break, it's a slippery slope downhill. The Celtics do not want to venture down, because really that's when we're talking about, the 7-game series. Forget beating any team in a 7-game series. We're going to have to do it for 4 straight rounds. And if we can't even do it for 1 round confidently, forget the 4 straight rounds. And right now, that's where the Celtics have been. And that's where the Celtics, we know that they're not slotted into in terms of what their meaning is for this season and what their capabilities are. So really, these individual games, they're becoming important, because at some point, this thing has to change for the Boston Celtics in terms of their consistency. And really, you just have to do it game by game by game. And really, the back-to-back, this is what's putting a lot of pressure on the Boston Celtics. Is back-to-back games are not always pretty. They're really not for any team across the NBA. But tomorrow's game at home against the Atlanta Hawks, the Celtics have been at home a lot recently. They only traveled across the border to Toronto, which is really not that far of a flight from Boston, if you really think about it. So they've really been in the area now for the past 2 weeks. And ultimately, the Celtics, if they come out and drop a dud tomorrow, we're back on the same conversation we had when we played the Toronto Raptors. Yet they come out and win, we're going to say, hey, 1 brick tonight, another brick tomorrow. And from here on out, if you just keep stacking those bricks, one day you have a house, and that house, of course, represents the NBA championship. But Celtics, they have to start at the bottom and go up. And right now, unfortunately, the other day we were talking about, we got rock bottom. We don't want to get into that conversation.
No, we
but
didn't.
At this moment in time, we are working up from the bottom. And tomorrow's game against the Atlanta Hawks is just as important. No, I'm not saying we said rock bottom. It was Randy who was saying, rock bottom.
Dude, that was so long ago. He's so delayed.
No, don't say that.
He is so delayed.
Don't say that. Anyway, Celtics need to win tomorrow again. They just need to get a win, please.
I completely agree. Tomorrow, it's a great opportunity again at home to do the same thing, attack the paint. And you'll be in a great spot. So before we close out the show, this is Justin's I Told You So. Come on. Again, stop living in your own world. I got you. All right. I got you. This is Justin's I Told You So moment. So here is a playback from Wednesday night's matchup against the Toronto Raptors.
$1 off your first purchase. We'll have you covered for Celtics post-game live on Friday night, as hopefully we're recapping a Celtics win. If not, we're going to be talking a whole lot of Peyton Pritchard. No, I would guarantee Celtics win against Orlando Magic. Oscar, come free, my man. The Orlando Magic, who have been balling, they've been balling this year. We love Paolo Banchero, big fan of him. But big one on Friday. No.
right.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even
I'm gonna
hear that.
tattletale.
So I just want to say this. Do you remember in the beginning of the season on TNT when the Celtics opened up their season and they opened up presents from the Celtics? In the Celtics organization, what they did was they essentially sent out to their biggest critics quotes that they engraved into the cigars, into the box. That's what all of you guys are going to get at the next company party. We've never had a company party, by the way.
Again, Justin is living in his own world.
So, well,
The next one.
Justin, I can't hear you. All right. Well, while Justin tries to figure it out,
I agree. This is the best Justin's ever sounded.
Well, guys, I'm going to thank you for joining us here on Postgame Live, guys. The Celtics, they bounced back tonight with a win against the Orlando Magic at home, 121-94, guys. It was a much-needed win. There were questions circling the 2024 defending NBA champions, and guess what? They answered some of those questions tonight. They're going to look to redeem themselves yet again tomorrow night against the Atlanta Hawks. That is back at the TD Garden, back at home. Guys, we will have you covered for Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Live directly after the final buzzer.
I just, want to say this. Apologize for the Peyton Pritchard stuff. The whole Sadiq Bey trade talk for Peyton Pritchard. The whole take Drew Holiday out of the starting lineup. That's all I want to say since I'm living in my own world. I just wanted to say that really quick to close out the show. Well,
guys, thank you so much for joining us. And again, until next time, cue that music. Win.
This is why you